The Cyhawk Trophy is on the line in Ames this weekend. Trent Condon of Locked On Hawkeyes is here to discuss the big game that suddenly feels like a pretty good barometer for what the rest of Iowa's season is going to be. Because you know what? You can write off one bad week early in the season as, you know what, it was early, we hadn't figured things out yet, we needed to make a lineup change. Oregon got pushed by Idaho on their home field last year and beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten, for goodness sake. So changes can happen. Now, allow me to note a stark difference between the Oregon and Iowa programs for just a moment here, Trent. One of them has shown a consistent propensity to produce offenses that can utilize the forward pass. One of them is Iowa. So when they go for 48 passing yards as a team last week against a school that most of us can't point out on a map, this is a concern when you're going up against one of the best teams in the Big 12, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Iowa State absolutely is that kind of team. Another major difference between Oregon and Iowa. Iowa has 4 national championships. The Ducks don't have any. But that aside, the passing game was brutal. They're
coming.
It was, but people see the 44 yards passing and think, all right, you look at, they ran for over 300 yards. They just did that. It wasn't just the 44 yards passing because, if you go 4 or 5 for 44 yards, that's okay. That wasn't the case. Mark Gronowski looked awful. He had one of their transfer wide receivers wide open in the end zone. Nobody between him and the end zone. It's a 15-yard pass. He cut it in half. A bounce pass into the end zone to try to get it there. He had a screenplay set up to the right, a little swing out there. He overshot it by a good 5 yards. His second pass of the game was just a simple stop route, and he missed it terribly. That's where the concern lies. Even afterwards that he hit 6 of his last 7 passes, only one of them went more than 10 yards in the air. So there are deeper concerns than just the statistical profile that is hideous in its own right with the 44 yards. There are some major concerns. Now, here is a positive. This is not Spencer Petras, who was not only an awful quarterback, he was also a statue back there and couldn't run. Mark Gronowski, that dude can run. So that's, I guess, the one positive that you can take out of it. You saw the physicality that he plays with, the ability in the run game that he's going to have throughout the course of the season. Look, they're going to have to throw this year in order to win games. You're not going to be able to beat an Oregon, an Indiana, a Penn State, heck, this weekend in Iowa State without any ability to throw the football. But that was the major concern coming out of that one. Not just the yardage total, how bad it looked.
Yeah, and the hot take, surface of the sun, scorching hot take I've got for the battle against the Cyclones this week. Whoever runs for more yards is going to win the game. Whoa! Where have we ever heard that in a football game? The reason I say it specifically, though, Trent, is Iowa State, in that Week 0 matchup with Kansas State in the first half, looked like their offensive line was getting overwhelmed. I think there is actually a chance for this Iowa front four to disrupt Rocco Becht, because the first half of that game, I was not impressed whatsoever. But in the second half, they settled down. In the second half, Iowa State got their ground game going. And that's when Rocco Becht became more dangerous. That was when their offense looked like it was in a much better rhythm and flow. And that started up front with creating running lanes there. I think you can point to a number of different things as being a key in this one. As good as Iowa's defense is, Trent, year in and year out, I just don't think with how Gronowski and the offense look to be operating at this moment that you can expect them to give you an above average performance against a good Iowa State defense, that got hurt against Kansas State with what? A big downfield shot. And otherwise, I thought actually played pretty well for the most part. So that Iowa defense is going to have to take away the run, because if Iowa State starts to get some balance, they could hit 20 points. I don't know how Iowa gets to 20 points in this game.
Well, I think you go bring up a really important part. And I don't think it's just individually Iowa. If they have 150 and Iowa State has 125, Iowa automatically wins. But if Iowa State has some semblance of a running game, yes, then I believe the Hawkeyes are going to be in trouble. I think this Iowa front four will cause some problems up front. This offensive line hasn't been great, certainly throughout the course of the season for Iowa State, and they had to bring in extra tight ends in order to do that. Playing bully ball against Iowa It can work against Kansas State and a lot of new faces up front. I don't think it's going to work against the Hawkeyes. I think if Iowa defensively is going to be very successful, though, really you have to derail Rocco Beck. You look at his numbers throughout the last year and a half. When he gets pressure in his face, like most quarterbacks, he struggles. But the gap between where he is without pressure as opposed to pressure, it is as significant as you're going to find in college football. So the belief for me is Iowa's going to have to do it, but not by blitzing. They have to do it with the front four because he is excellent against the blitz. He's been dynamite again this season. If I was going to do it, it has to be with the front four to get Rocco off his spot. And, of course, I was going to have to run the football here. I don't think the Cyclones are going to have a ton of success running the ball in this game.
So the over-under, to nobody's surprise, is a touch low compared to the other games this weekend. I mean, you look at the Illinois-Duke game, which is a premier matchup in college football this week. You've got an over-under in the low 50s, and I actually think that game is going to go over. You look at the over-under in this game, Trent, according to our friends at FanDuel, this is not going to be one of my best bets of the week because there are not enough points going either way in a rivalry game for me to feel super confident in that. And I'll get to my best bets on the third segment of today's show. But 42.5 is the over-under, meaning Vegas is looking at this matchup and seeing something in the low to mid-20s at most, high teens for the other team, kind of a 2017 game, a 21-20 game. If it were to go under, frankly, I kind of think that could be high score. This Iowa State defense is not to be messed around with. I think they were really impressive in what is the best measuring stick you have for the Cyclones so far this season against Kansas State. Certainly they had some things to clean up. Who the heck doesn't after week? Even teams that win. Ohio State had the win of the year so far in college football against Texas, and you looked at them and went, yeah, you've got a long ways to go, but it's a good thing you won the game. And that's what you can say about Iowa State, I think, to, frankly, a lesser extent for what they're trying to accomplish, because I think that that's a team that can go win the Big 12, was in the conference championship game a season ago. The win against Kansas State was certainly huge, but I just think in this spot, Iowa's ceiling offensively to me in this game feels like 20 points. That I think is the ceiling based on what we saw last week, because I think there's a little more in the tank, but man, really hard to have confidence right now.
So you look back at Iowa's, they've won 6 straight games in Jack Trice stadiums. Go back to 2011, the last time the Cyclones won in their own building. And a big piece of that has been that Iowa's been able to score in different ways. They've been able to score with special teams. They've been able to score with defense. And that's why I can't just put that 20 mark out there, because Iowa's done it. Jack Campbell taking in a touchdown 4 years back. 2 years ago was Sebastian Castro picking off Rocco Beck and bringing it in. Special teams have been dominant for Iowa. So because of that, I can't put that cap there. But you mentioned the total. I mean, 41. This is like Christmas
42
Day.
and a half. 42 and a half.
42 and a half. I mean, remember, Iowa played the game just 2 years ago against Nebraska. The total closed at 24 and a half.
Oh!
And it went under. 13-10, Iowa with the victory in that one. How about that same year, Iowa plays Rutgers. 27 and a half was the number. It hit under 22-0 Iowa victory in that one. So these low totals, they don't scare us one iota, but do remember that Iowa, it's about the defense. It's about making plays with the defense, and Iowa's special teams is also elite. The returner of the year last year in college football, the Jet Award winner, Caden Weechin, he is back for another season. They are tremendous there. They had a 55-yard field goal here. So Iowa, this is how they do it. They do it in different ways. You can't just strictly look at the offense and the scoring when you're talking about an Iowa team total.
When you said the word iota, I feel like there's a pun with Iowa in there somewhere. But yeah, I'm not corny enough to try to make it because it didn't immediately click in my head. But it's out there. I like Iowa State to win this game at home. I just can't get behind the Hawkeyes after what I saw in week 1. If they had another game and showed some progress, then maybe. But, man, you're asking them to fix a lot against a team that I like and have preseason as rated as one of my top teams in the Big 12 this year. So I'll take Iowa State to win. I think it's ugly, but I'm gonna go 21-13. I'll take the Cyclones.
I'm a little bit more higher scoring than you, but we're in the same ballpark. I got Iowa State winning this one 23-17, maybe even a little bit more comfortable than that final score indicates. In fact, if you go back the last 20 years when Iowa State has won in this series, all the games have been by 3 points or less. So this would be an anomaly, even if they can win it by 6 or more. It's normally tight, and when it's tight, it's gone both ways, but Iowa State has been the only way they can win dating back to 2005 when they knocked off top 10 Iowa and Drew Tate 23-3.